Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Brain Boogaloo. This is episode 1, and here on the Astrobiologist's channel, we only have the finest guests and the finest discussions. Joining us today is the exquisite, prolific, extremely attractive, well-versed, highly skilled, and mighty persuasive content creator, Master Ian Gamer, who has decided to grace us with his company. So, welcome, Ian, and thank you.
Hello, thank you all for having me. If you're not familiar, I produce Overwatch YouTube videos, and that's it. That's my entire life in a nutshell.
He cranks out that Overwatch content and does nothing else. Back to the basement with him.
It's true. It's true. Ian, just out of curiosity, when's the last time you touched grass?
I think I might have accidentally touched grass when I went to take out the trash yesterday.
Oh, I see. Was it
fair,
sunny?
actually.
When was the last time that your skin saw sunlight?
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, okay. Not
What a
since the
strong
beta,
start.
that's for sure.
Oh my, precisely. Well, actually, today's topic is going to be one and all things related to the Overwatch 2 beta, and so that's going to be lovely. But just for posterity's sake, my name is Zek. I am the most esteemed infernal satanic tech support of this YouTube channel, which is, of course, the property of Astro. Astro's, of course, Astro. And we are in the company of Nexus Spacey, who most of you would be familiar with by now. The esteemed streamer with an average view count of, 7 live viewers, which is pretty good.
Like 5.
Oh, 5. Oh, you have to exclude me. I suppose I'm always there.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, welcome back. So, upon the notes here we have today, we've aggregated a few of the things that all of us have wanted to discuss. And we're starting here with 0.0, which is a conspiracy theory, maybe or maybe not. Overwatch 2 beta launch view numbers versus the current numbers. Could you explain to me what that means, Ness? I'm a little bit confused.
Well, so when the Overwatch 2 beta was being advertised a lot on Twitch and YouTube and everything, basically, they blew it out of the water. They got a lot of people excited, a lot of people interested, and the Twitch number shot up to 1.5 million, which is an astronomical amount of viewers, especially on Twitch.
That's more than Elden Ring.
Yeah,
Is that like the peak for Overwatch as a
that is
franchise?
more than the peak for the Overwatch franchise. Yes, on Twitch,
Unbelievable.
and it immediately, like after 2 or 3 days, dropped back down to the original normal numbers for Overwatch. A bit more, but not much.
And what is the cause of this effect, if you wouldn't mind? Oh yes, this is another purpose that Nexus Spacey serves on this channel. He's actually our expert, which every news channel needs to
I
have.
appear
suppose
to
we're
be
a news
good at the
channel now.
game.
Yes, you appear to be good at the game. You have the semblance of skill, the semblance of competence. So equivalent to all news anchors.
Careful now.
Yes, I wouldn't want to be disappeared just yet. At least not this year. What
That's not
caused
gonna
this
happen.
effect?
Think the news cares that much?
Please
Yeah.
elaborate.
No, that's just kind of it. We got a lot of viewers at first, and I feel like I feel like people may not have gotten what they wanted. They thought they might have gotten the entirety of Overwatch 2, or a bit more than we got. Maybe some things weren't changed that ended up, getting boring after a while.
Right.
And the queue
Yeah.
times have also exponentially risen as time has gone on.
Yeah, I feel like this really ties into something which, honestly, we could probably do an entire episode talking about, but it's just Blizzard's terrible track record with communicating what they're giving us.
Yeah.
Like- They said Overwatch 2 PvP beta, and like, oh wow, cool, this is Overwatch 2. It didn't really emphasize the part that this was the first beta out of multiple. So people see it and it's like, oh, it's been like 2 years, 3 years since we got like major Overwatch content. What's new? 1 new hero, 4 new maps. Also, half the Overwatch 1 maps are gone. People,
And you have one less player on your team.
when Blizzard doesn't tell people like what they're actually giving them and what it is relative to like what they have in the works, of course people are going to get excited, see less content than what they're used to there being, and being like, oh my, oh dear.
It's the
Yes.
it's the Halo Infinite effect.
Oh no, please.
Guys, we took your game, we made it smaller. Here you go.
Wait. How many assault maps were there in the vanilla game?
I think 3?
At launch, there were 3, 5
That's 3, 5.
after Paris was added.
Right.
So there actually is less content.
Yeah, there is. And keep in mind, keep in
wait,
mind
hold on a
that
second.
keep in mind that some of the non-assault maps are gone too. I haven't played Havana.
To Havana. Yeah, Havana's on the
Havana's
queue.
gone.
Havana's not, Junkertown's not.
Blizzard World, I also haven't seen.
Yeah,
not.
I haven't
I
seen.
think they put out a list. I'm trying to remember what the exact list was.
Yeah.
I know I have a list of it somewhere. I'd have to find it.
I think it's the playlist for the Overwatch League that they're
makes
playing
sense.
on.
Yeah, I haven't seen
that makes
Nepal
sense.
either.
Wait, actually, the other maps are just straight up not in the game. It's Ilios, Lijiang, Oasis, Circuit Royale, Dorado, Route 66, Gibraltar, Eichenwald, Kings Row, Midtown, Colosseo, and New Street.
You know what? Actually, that makes
Correct.
perfect sense because
Right.
they have to be adding all those types of debris to those sight lines, especially on Havana. We'll need a lot more areas that you can take cover. So
and
they probably have
Junkertown.
to. Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
God,
Junker.
Junkertown.
Oh yeah, first point.
Actual
Widowmaker
yucky.
Paradise. They may actually have to do some crazy things to that. They may have to actually put up street signs or something.
They might have to actually give a shit.
I
They
love.
add more apocalyptic vehicles to Junkertown. I would have loved
That'd be
that.
cool.
Just random piles of scrap that you could hide behind.
Give me a Mad Max war rig to hide behind, please.
There you go.
Oh, there
Oh,
it is.
Oh yes. Also, just a brief aside. Nobody comment on this, or it'll go forever. But I really hope that there is a Junkertown quest line in the Overwatch 2 main story where you can pick up and interact with gadgets from that kind of
That'd be cool.
flavor. That would be really cool. Anyway, back to the front.
I feel like at this point, if they aren't going to change Junkertown much, they might as well just have it say, instead of now traveling to Junkertown, it might as well say now traveling to Widowtown.
I know, it should just say Sniper Country.
Yeah, it's just Sniper Country.
Sniper Country.
Now
Oh,
traveling
good
to
job,
Sniper
Mike.
Country.
It's just it's all Widow all the time.
Howdy, cow person. So I'm going to progress this a little bit. Point 1 is there will be multiple betas, which you did mention. And what are the implications of this? I suppose all of us actually have some information on this that maybe we should or shouldn't have. I am aware of a potential console beta coming. I can't remember if that was their official announcement or not.
They're planning to do that the third time around. The
Third time
second
around,
beta
yeah.
should be coming around the 5th of May, which is 2 days from where I'm recording. But I guess the rest just in the past. You should just live in Europe, I guess.
No thanks.
Yeah.
I also know that there's a few other things that Zek knows that he probably shouldn't, but
I'm expecting some changes the next time around. So May the 5th is probably when we'll see some updates to the next beta.
right.
I presume that they're going to be doing, especially because the experimental card has a permanent slot on the screen, I presume that they're going to be, at least going forward into the future, trying a lot of things. So hopefully the second beta is going to have a lot more aggressive changes. Maybe after collecting data on seeing the performance of Reinhardt, which we will discuss later when we talk in the second segment of this, that they would be trying to more aggressively try cool things, flavorful things, fun things, powerful things.
Right.
Right.
Maybe give the supports a hand,
Yeah, no kidding.
A different
unloved
hand.
category.
Not the hand job that is 15 HPS after 1 second out of combat.
Which is listen, the only place where that's really strong is, I guess, when you're slightly better than the enemy, in which case you will never die. But otherwise, it may as well not exist, right? It's otherwise you're self-healing anyway, unless you're Ana.
That's the other thing we should touch on is
It's very character specific too. It's not a good passive.
that's the other thing we should touch on, the fact that depending on the rank, it'll literally either be the tanks never die because the supports are good enough to keep them up all the time, or the tanks will literally always be dead because
Why are you saying tanks plural? This is a new era. This is 5v5.
okay,
The
I know.
tank.
Teams
The
tanks
tank.
will immediately kill themselves.
because what I've heard is that at lower ranks, or not even if the game has better DPS than supports, basically the tanks live or die. The tank lives or dies based on the ratio to how good their supports are to how good the enemy DPS are. So, which I think could be a little hyperbolic, but we'll see.
We'll have to see. You tend to enjoy the hyperbole, but so do I. I suppose only time will tell when it comes to the advancements of Overwatch 2. Now, with the potentiality of... Actually, the Microsoft deal is going through now, isn't it, pending government approval?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think it still is, yeah.
Right, so I presume that with that happening, the pressure on the dev team will be alleviated because Activision's greedy corporate hands will have a less of a chokehold on the company. Admittedly, chokeholds can sometimes be very enjoyable. In this case, it's not, and it's very bad for the game that we like, stymieing a lot of the progress that we could see.
I mean, to think that after 3 years, this is the progress that they got is... I'm sure even they're upset about it.
It's kind of laughable. However, wasn't there dev notes at some point? I can't remember where I heard this from. I think maybe Ina was talking to you about how they were having a lot of a hard time with their executive orders. They were being told from the higher management and the higher direction that you have to do this one thing, or focus a lot on this one thing, and then changing of minds of these executives.
Yeah, that was Kodak.
There was that one executive producer on Twitter who was commenting about that shortly before she left. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just comment from one person, so maybe that's the case. Maybe who knows the exact extremity of it, but certainly there's evidence of upper middle management probably tampering, saying, "Oh, Fortnite, they're doing that. You should do that." 2 months later, let's not do that. Backtrack 2 months of work.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the big factor in the end result we have today.
Yep.
Dramatic segue, I suppose, or maybe not even, just a digression. Would Overwatch 2 be better off without roll queue?
No.
So I've seen this discussion going around in the wider community, but also some specific parts, notably the Korean competitive scene and the Overwatch forums, who have been saying things like, well, with how bad the queue times are and how shit the roles seems to be balanced, should roll queue still be in the game? That's what they've brought up.
If they remove roll queue, they might as well remove the support role entirely.
Yeah.
Every single one of those heroes.
I'm never going back to the Dark Ages.
Ever in Overwatch 2 if they get rid of roll queue.
I'm never going back to the Dark Ages.
Oh, no.
And there's always also a question from the Korean scene specifically, which is like, okay, well, let's not get rid of roll queue for us, but what if in the competitive rule set, like the higher up competitive rule set, not queue up competitive, so like league level, what if they had a different rule set where they could pick a bit more freely?
Right, but wasn't that the whole point of what Blizzard did? Isn't Blizzard trying to avoid that as much as possible? Isn't the point that the professional scene mimics the game, which is why they decided to bring Overwatch League onto our patch? Wasn't that the whole ordeal about that? Because people were like, "Oh, what's going on? Why is this still good? Goats has been patched out a year and a half ago, and they're still not on the patch."
Granted.
Yeah. Also,
go ahead.
if they did something where it's like, oh, the pros, they don't have roll queue, but you do have roll queue, I feel like that would be reflected horribly, because that's like an example of the elites have freedom, you do not. I wonder how people are going to respond to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
I don't think that would go over well at all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing, right? It's like, I find this idea that it's like, oh, we want the Overwatch League to mimic the game. We want the game to mimic Overwatch League. It's like, you are trying to mix oil and water here. I think any pro player can tell you that it's basically two completely different games, and I feel Ness can tell us that.
Oh, very much.
They are not the same game. This is a fool's errand.
In the current ranks for Overwatch 1, there's a certain line you cross where you play Overwatch and then you play Overwatch. They're very different games. You still queue into the same games, and occasionally you'll find yourself in the wrong one. But they are very notably different.
And that's triply so for the pro scene.
Exactly.
Scrims and pro tournaments are just it's a different game. So I just find it ridiculous that they're going for this oh, the game should be like, or the Overwatch League should be so relatable by the regular player, because that's just not possible.
It's shown that that's not the case.
Okay, so that's two answers to two separate questions. So to the question, would Overwatch 2 be better off without role queue? Everybody says no.
It should still have role queue for, especially things like quick play.
Yeah.
Because that just makes things a lot easier.
Right, so you don't have toxic 5 DPS or 5 tank lobbies, which actually may happen considering how strong tanks are now comparatively. Now, to the second question, which came out of that, which is, should Blizzard attempt to have the competitive scene mimic the casual scene? And the answer is, like, in both directionalities, that is clearly not good, from what I've gathered at least. So we're all on the same page on that.
Yeah,
it's a strong maybe.
Every game.
Yeah, that's basically how I feel as well. Strong maybe. Like, I see the pros and cons of both sides, because if the pros are playing like an objectively different game, like literally the objectives are different and the mechanics are different, and what the pros are doing versus what the casual player is doing, that just generates a massive disconnect between the two. It's like, oh, I love playing soccer, or football for you non-Americans. Like, I love playing that, but I'm going to watch baseball, and they're supposed to be the same games. It's like, no. Like, you watch soccer if you want to play soccer. You watch baseball if you want to play baseball. You watch Overwatch if you want to play Overwatch. If they're two different games, I think they would lose so much viewership, because there would just be such a huge disconnect of audience interest versus what's actually being played by the pros. And I think that would be bad. But at the same time, absolutely the way Overwatch at a pro level is played is completely different than how a casual player is going to play it. So I honestly don't know, because I think it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like, there's no great solution in either direction.
Well, I think the answer to that more is less like changing the objectives and things like that. And I think the answer is more towards just like how they handle balance in the game. Because I feel like it's sort of a trying to have their cake and eat it too sort of thing, where they really need to just choose if they're going to go for like a pro-centered balance or a not pro-centered balance, because they're just too different.
Oh, but they are, though. We definitely know that they're going for the competitive focused balance, right? Like the entire, I don't want to call it dogma, but it is kind of like the belief system behind the developers operating in Overwatch 2. It's even visible in the menus. It's no longer quick play, it's unranked.
Right.
And then ranked.
That's true.
Arcade. Yeah. And it's like, in unranked, you have the quick play, you have the quick play classic, and you have, those are locked, right? Quick play classic, mystery heroes, and the other thing, team deathmatch are locked. But like, those are the core, that's going to be the core experience for unranked players, right? And then there's going to be all the single player stuff, which you're probably going to have to pay for, probably $39 US. I'm presuming, at least, doubly on console, as it usually is.
And also going back to the idea of like balancing them differently, like, to what extent could you balance the pro scene and the casual scene differently? It just number tweaks?
I'm not saying
Reinhardt another fire strike? Like where's that line? Because even if it's like,
Correct.
Doomfist Seismic Slam has a 7-second cooldown for casuals, but it's a 9-second for pros, people will notice that. The audience will notice that. And that's going to create that same disconnect where they're just not playing the same game across the board if they make changes like that.
Again,
which is why I feel like they can't do that. But at the same time, it's not in a great situation now as it is. So I don't know the answer.
I'm going to give an example of a few games and how they have handled this situation of the game is just fundamentally different on pro level. There's a game like League who is understandably different at pro level just because of how complex the game is. Until pro level, no one understands the game, similar to Overwatch. And yeah, the way they fix that is with a ban system for the entirety of competitive play, having it be up to the players which characters they ban and which characters are problematic in their format.
Indeed. That's been the solution for most MOBAs. I did play a lot of Smite last year because I have some friends that are into that. And what I noticed is that Smite, despite having some really egregious balancing problems, like when you're playing in competitive, anything that's even remotely problematic, or if you're playing in a 5-stack, right, it's like that's because that's the whole team, right? You can just opt to ban out gods that you really know you can't win against, right? So for example, if something is just too strong and like you have a team member that's on a certain role in which they're weak against that kind of playstyle, you just ban that god, and it's like there's like 100 and whatever gods in the game, so it really doesn't matter. I don't know how many. I think 10 gods end up being banned, so it's like it's less than 10% of the roster, but it's enough to make it so that the playing field is much more equalized. So I think that maybe like, and this is kind of why I mentioned that there was a difference between the casual game modes and the competitive game modes already visible in the menus. It's that it seems to me that maybe that would be the world we would be heading towards, and I think that maybe it would be better for the game if competitive mode gets, I don't want to say extra rule sets, but like it already kind of has extra rule sets. You know, you play both sides of the
You
payload.
should have a different rule set from quick play, like a notably different one.
And yeah, I'm not
Different where you're not playing the same game, but one that's like you're competing, you're not having fun.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that that like pro and casual should be balanced differently, like they should be like different patches.
No, they definitely shouldn't.
I'm just saying that like they need to kind of accept, and I don't know if they have or not, but they need to kind of accept that like trying to like make them super relatable to each other, it's not going to work. I mean, you can have them have similarities that will make people interested, but like trying to treat them the same is not going to work.
Right, because they're fundamentally different.
Yeah.
I think I can take that and run now, and we can go to point 3,
Yeah.
which is what are the best heroes? I don't know what precisely this means. I think that the question is, what are the most meta-relevant heroes, or what are the heroes that are the most powerful? Although it's very hard to tell based upon how that was worded. So
the way I meant this question was more of a what does everyone who has played the beta here. So sorry to exclude you, Zach, but you can also join in. So Ian and Astro, what do you guys think are some of the best heroes in the beta? What are some of the most obnoxious heroes?
Okay, so personally, I'd say that the single best hero is definitely Widowmaker. Every time I've been in a match with a good Widowmaker, I don't play the game, and I'm the tank.
From the other roles, I definitely do agree.
Yeah, I'd say that, like, just going role by role, I'd say that best DPS is definitely Widow. I'd say that the best tank is probably Orisa. And I'd say the best support, it's almost certainly Ana. So.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. No, Ana's crazy.
I have a slightly differing opinion on some of the specifics, but I do agree that specifically the top 4 DPS currently are Widow, Hanzo, Ashe, and Soldier.
Yeah, definitely. Soldier is so strong, dude.
All
It's
4
nuts.
of those, they make a noticeable impact in the experience of the game.
So, Ian, what about you?
Yeah. I think I basically agree, like, with all of those. Orisa is definitely the dominant tank right now. She is so powerful. Ana's support,
great, though.
yeah, like that sleep. Ugh.
Like,
Like you remove all this crowd control, and it's like, okay, cool, it's a nice direction, and then you leave sleep untouched, where it's like, that's just the crowd control in the game now. Sleep dart.
It's still 5
It's
seconds.
so overpowered.
I mean, it's clear that they knew it was super powerful, which is why they increased the cooldown on it. But I feel like the duration might be a similar problem that you're going
It
to
should
have.
be like 2 seconds maximum.
2 or 3 maximum, yeah.
Oh,
Right,
not
that seems
3.
like a pretty
not 3,
considerable
2.
That's
Not 3.
considerable. 3 seconds is the duration of Reinhardt's Earthshatter now at maximum impact.
No, it's 2.5.
I thought they undid that. I thought they rebuffed it back to 3.
didn't undo that one.
Okay.
So no,
Okay,
2.
then,
Just
2.5.
2.
Yeah. Because I'm wondering about that. I mean, I guess Ana's sleep dart, they could have just made it root dart, which may have been
be
less
stupid.
cool, but it could
Turns
have been
into
like,
a fireable Junkrat trap.
right, like
Dear
narcolepsy dart, or like.
Oh, God. Alright, so what about you, Ness? What would you give us your answer?
Well, having to pick one of each role, I feel like the most powerful character would probably be either Soldier or Soldier, Widow, or Sombra for DPS.
Oh, Sombra. That's
I'm
right.
leaning towards Widow, just because of how simple her kit is. Really.
Right. I forgot about Sombra. She's crazy too.
For tank, I've heard a lot of high tier gamers complain about Doomfist, though I haven't really found the ability to play him myself yet. So I'm not good at him myself, but I'm just gonna trust the guys on it when it comes to how good he is. Though personally, I feel like Orisa is quite strong, and Zarya as well has been.
Yeah,
Whenever Zarya has been picked, she's been mega strong.
Really?
Yeah, I remember.
That hasn't been my experience.
Really? That's what
First of all, I see very few people playing Zarya on the beta, and when I do, I don't know. It kind of just feels easy to focus her down, like just shoot through her barriers and then shoot her. Like, I don't know. I haven't encountered any issues with Zarya, but that could have just been my experience.
Yeah.
In the games that I spectated of yours, Nexus, there was not a single Zarya player once. And I watched
they don't come up
an
often,
hour.
but when they do, they're just very, very good, usually.
Right. What I did notice, though, which is, I guess, kind of my formed opinion for this, is Lucio is by far the best support by, like, miles. Like, I don't care about Sleep Dart. It's literally irrelevant. Lucio just does everything else except for Sleep Dart, but better.
It is definitely
He's an assassin.
between Lucio and Ana is definitely the fight for the best support currently. And they're usually both run in the same team.
Right, but they're both so good, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But
another big sleeper character is Brig, just because of how consistent and how high her healing values are.
Because it's Brig.
Right, because
of course, it's the funny pack character that heals way too much. Heals more than Mercy and Moira.
Yep, out heals all the healers. Yeah, supposed to be tank support hybrid, ended up being tank support DPS of super multi-class, hyper optimized. Unkillable, and horribly unfun to play, especially from what I've seen in the beta gameplay that I've seen of yours, Nexus. It doesn't look entertaining to play her at all. You just kind of like whip shot and you stand 20 meters away from the enemy team and you like dance, pop up your shield, pop it down, throw packs at people. You never engage ever.
Yeah, and when you do, you're just trying to look for either an insta kill or you're looking towards an instant death.
Yeah, without the stun, it's just not as the vibe isn't there, man.
Yeah, I think this is the least engaging version of Brig we've ever seen. Like, the fact that she's had so much stripped from her kit. It's like, sure, she dishes out a ton of healing, but she's so boring to play now. It feels like she doesn't do anything. Yeah,
the
right.
part about it too is like you feel like you're doing nothing.
All passive.
Yeah,
but like you're still very good. It's annoying.
It's not
and
quite
that's the worst thing
Mercy,
too. Like it's far better to have the illusion that you're doing something than to feel like you're doing nothing and you're doing it, right? Because it's all about player enjoyment, right? And like I would much rather a character be literally F tier unplayable and feel awesome to play than that character be God tier and be miserable and everybody hate their lives.
No, absolutely, I agree.
Speaking of F tier and awesome to play, Sojourn has been surprisingly weak in the current alpha, current beta.
Really
smooth transition.
Yes.
So
I know that Ian has played against a horrifically overpowered version of Sojourn.
Yeah. Not much I can say about that.
We have not seen anything of the like. It is not nearly as powerful. It's still good, but very hard to execute.
Any hot takes on her? I'm kind of sad that we haven't seen any of her cosmetics. I do like the maple leaf on her outfit. That's cute.
Yeah, I assume we're going to get more cosmetics for her later down the line. Kind of how like other new heroes and the PTR in the past have worked. Where it's like initially, it's just the hero, and then a couple weeks into the PTR they get their cosmetics. I'm assuming that's what Blizzard is going to do. I doubt they would save that until launch, but
I'm assuming that's just going to be the May the 5th patch. It's just skins for Sojourn, certain changes to heroes, and perhaps a little teaser towards the next thing.
Ooh, the Mauga or Junker Queen
or the Fox Girl.
The Fox Girl.
Literally anything.
Literally anything at all.
Just number tweaks.
No, it's just number tweaks, guys.
Well, listen, if it's like 38 number tweaks, then everybody's gonna like it. But if it's like 2 number tweaks and then like, we fixed the golden gun glitch.
Guys, we nerfed Moira again. Look at how cool we are.
Wow. Oh dear. Here we go.
No, but
honestly, I'm not getting my hopes up too much for anything big on May the 5th in terms of like new content. I think it's gonna be a lot of balanced tweaks and adjustments and stuff. I don't feel like they're going to be teasing another new hero this soon. It doesn't feel like it lines up well in terms of like, when the beta is going to end, and then like there's probably going to be downtime between the next beta.
That's true.
Yeah,
Though,
I'm not expecting like tangible content this week.
Would there be downtime between betas? Actually, that's another.
Oh,
one.
absolutely.
Almost certainly.
They would need
They
time
would
to
like
adjust
have
things.
to from a technical perspective.
Yeah. But anyway, Sojourn. My experience with Sojourn is that it's kind of what Goodman said, where she's very feast or famine, not in like the extreme way as like Doomfist, but definitely she either completely just does nothing, or she just like takes out 3 of your teammates and just pieces out.
Yeah, she's either just like okay, or she's either okay or a little below that, or just absolutely annihilates your front, back, and whatever
Everybody.
you are.
And
Everybody except for the tank dies, basically.
oh, trust me, no, the tank dies too.
Right.
Yeah.
Multiple, headshots when she's ulting.
And it basically entirely is based on how well you can hit the railgun. Like, obviously how much you can hit the primary fire matters, but like, it doesn't matter nearly as much as being able to hit the railgun. That railgun, it does 130 damage.
Yes, it does
at
130.
full charge.
Oh my.
What I like about it though is that you have to actually hit your other shots to be able to hit the railgun to begin with.
Yeah.
That's a cool mechanic.
No, it is. The slide is really interesting. I think it's more sort of an issue of people getting used to it, but like people just don't seem to know how to like stop her from just kind of going wherever she wants. And I think it has to do with the fact that, one, she's so low to the ground when she's that mobile, and I think it's also because she can pop up so fast. And because her like the rate at which she rises it's like uppercut levels of fast. It's ridiculous.
Unreactable, like 10 frames probably. No, it is very quick. I think that's kind of one of the things that we're noticing about Overwatch 2. I mean, we've definitely all noticed this, is how powerful mobility is, and just how much that will really drive the game going forward, especially now that there are basically no ways to truly stop that.
Yeah.
Right, you can't it's either kill the thing or it demolishes you, right? That explicates Tracer's. Okay, I'm going to take this as an opportunity to transition the topic, right? Because this is leading into the discussion relating to point 5, which is the changes of universal gameplay mechanics. So, Tracer has been nerfed, and Tracer is supposed to be the character that the entire game is balanced around. And so if her power is being toned down, then that means that the power level of the game itself is being toned down. Now, in all of your experiences...
Very,
right, or shifted, yes. Yes. In your experiences, how has it felt? Is it noticeable, or is it just that there's one less character, so the damage feels the same, but, Tracer and Reaper, because of their abilities to flank, had to be tweaked? Like what's the... what are your experiences in this beta environment so far with...
the base power
the
feels
meltiness,
higher
I
to me,
guess.
actually.
Oh.
The per character base power, it's strange, because as a player and as anyone in the game, really, you're harder to stop from any point in the match. If you're going hard, the enemy can't really stop you, or like purposefully pick a character to stop you. They have to either outskill you or pick a creative way to get rid of you.
Right.
Which is very different from Overwatch 1, where when someone was just gaming, unless they were on Widow, you could just do something about that.
Right. That was in the design philosophy of Overwatch 2. I can't remember who said this. I really can't. I have terrible memory when it comes to this. Maybe that's for non-disclosure reasons. But someone did say to me at some point that there was an intentional decision to move Overwatch 2 away from the idea that you can just pick, you can just pick McCree or Cassidy and just completely negate all of the flankers just by having flashback. Like, that type of rock, paper, scissors mentality will be completely gone. And I can't remember where I heard that from, but it really seems to me like it's the case from the gameplay that I've seen.
Yeah,
Is that
it largely
Yeah,
is.
I feel like in a lot of ways the roster of characters, maybe even just like localized to like the damage, tank, and support roles of their own, it feels like all the heroes have been almost like sort of normalized in terms of like there's less extremes of like, oh, this character is really good at this thing, but this character is really good at that other thing, and instead they're all just more generally good in the same sort of ways. Of course, there's still differences, like Widow can snipe and Tracer can't. But in terms of like their effectiveness and like the situations where it's like, oh, this is a good time to play Widowmaker versus this is a good time to play Tracer, it feels like it's been more sort of just like generalized together, where it's like, oh, play whoever you want, whenever you want, it'll work. More so than Overwatch 1 in that
The
regard.
character differences have been smoothed out a lot. The
Yes.
effectiveness you can get on them as well. It's quite nice actually.
Yeah, I like
to
it.
know that you can do about the same on every character, but every character does it
Differently. I like that. That is definitely.
It's nice in terms of like, oh, I like playing a character who maybe was more niche. Like Bastion, I think is a great example of this. Like Bastion was always fun in my opinion, but he was so niche in how he was viable. But now it's like, oh, Bastion's much more viable in more situations because he's a bit more general, a bit more like just a soldier essentially. And so like that's nice in terms of being able to play the heroes you like, but it also is like, but now Bastion lost his sentry immobile form, and he feels less unique in his own special way than he used to.
And
so I feel like there's something gained and something lost by smoothing things out like this.
And that's something I think we're going to talk about when we get to the 7th point. So.
Oh, yes. Yes, definitely. That's a very important subject. So I'm going to steer this a little bit. Another point I wanted to discuss, besides the complete disappearance of Assault, is push. Any thoughts? Is it just like, okay? A lot of people seem to just be saying, yes, this is Overwatch, and it's okay. Which is like...
So I have a few thoughts about push, but this also extends to the rest of just how Overwatch 2 feels. It feels even more steamrolly than Overwatch 1, which was already a problem in Overwatch 1.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that was meant to be looked at least.
Yeah, so push, I have thoughts about. I don't know if you guys ever play like RTS games, real-time strategies, or just like turn-based strategy games like Civilization or Age of Empires or anything.
I've played Age of Empires.
In those games, you know you're going to lose or win long before you actually lose or win.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that same thing can be applied to push, and I think that's a bad thing. Because a team is going to have the enemy push their robot within like a few meters of their, like the end point where they just automatically win. They're going to give up. The losing team's going to give up. Why? It does the amount of effort it would take for them to push that robot all the way back to the center point at the very least, and then from there to match where the enemy team has already pushed it in their direction? No. People are going to become so demoralized so quickly in push. And I think this is something we're going to see snowball over time as people start to realize that that's just the state of push. That's how push works. Once you lose the first 20, 30 meters or so, you've essentially lost the game. People are going to give up and just let the enemy push it all the way to their base just to end the match soon. I am legitimately concerned about that in push. The game mode itself is fun, but I think we're going to see some serious like player mentality issues in that mode over time.
Oh dear.
So I'm concerned about how that's going to play out.
So you mean to say that they took Assault and then they replaced it with Assault?
Correct. Except in Assault, you always had the thought that they might not get that final third tick they need on the second point, and then you could win. But here it's like they've already pushed it 200 meters farther than we have. They've already won, essentially.
That's really interesting. It really is a zero sum though, because doesn't it lock at certain points? How does that work?
So it moves the spawn points of the pushing team towards, like, if you get it to a certain checkpoint, it moves your spawn point closer to the middle point, or like further away from the middle point.
Oh,
yeah.
So
it's an
that
interesting.
really snowballs hard, because when I was watching the gameplay, it really isn't obvious how it works.
No, it's not.
So that's really, really bizarre.
I'd say that, like, just my thoughts on what Ian is saying, I absolutely agree. Like, in my experience, and I think Ian can agree with this because most of the games I've played have been with either Ian or Ness. Yeah, basically, if you push, like what I've seen is if they're able to push it to that first checkpoint, obviously the team who's losing is trying, or at least they usually are, but it's somewhat of a futile effort. I'd say that something that they should look into is, depending on where the robot is on like the track, the speed at which it moves should change. So like maybe if it's near the enemy goal and you start pushing it the other way, maybe it should be faster, and then once it gets closer to the middle it slows down again. And then if it's moving the other way towards like another end, it'll start faster, and then the closer it gets to your goal, it'll get slower.
That sounds intuitive. That sounds like it would be the type of thing that they would have already thought about and programmed in, but I guess maybe I'm extending far too much courtesy. Oh, the Ian laugh. Oh, no.
Don't get me started on that sort of thing.
I've got a good example of how most push games usually go. There's like two ways a push game can go. It is either perfectly balanced, where both teams will push it like 30 meters away, winning team fight, like kind of just like 1-2ing every team fight. The team wins one, they push 30 meters. Other team wins one, they push back 30 meters, and so on and so forth. And then the other time you play push, it's the first team wins the first team fight. They push it 70 meters, or like 9 meters away from wherever the checkpoint is, and you are there permanently pushing it back to the start point and getting annihilated as soon as they get ultimates.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I feel like, just talking about what Ness said about with all the ultimates, it basically is deathmatch with extra steps. Yeah. It's like just the way it's played is pretty much that everyone will be like in the general vicinity of the robot, but that doesn't necessarily
mean... Right, there's no opportunity for C9ing. That is literally deathmatch with extra steps.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've seen plenty, but it's difficult in that game mode.
But it really is just sort of a situation where people are in the general area of the robot, but because of like how relatively unclear, at least for now, the goal is, people just sort of tend to just kind of have little squabbles and skirmishes just sort of in random places near the robot. But it's a weird game mode.
Wow. I get it a lot. It's gonna probably be changed a lot, and we're gonna have to get used to a lot of how the game mode functions. But yeah, it is definitely a very skirmishy, all over the place game mode, where you're either all on the point or you're all trying to pick people off that are not on the point, exactly, or are close to the point, or flanking away from the point. It's a dynamic game mode, but that is also in its own detriment. And staying around the payload, or the robot, is not as beneficial as it is in payload, because it doesn't push any faster depending on how many people are on it.
I don't think it heals you either. Does it heal you?
Like the payload does?
Yeah.
No, the robot doesn't heal you.
No, it also doesn't heal you. I feel like a neat change that might actually work is when the robot isn't pushing the block, it might move faster depending on how many players are next to it, which might cause team rolls to happen less frequently. But who knows?
Well, I suppose that this is all theoretical now, and I guess Blizzard would have to kind of fess up that their really cool, nice, fun game mode may need a little bit of tweaking, which I guess we may see depending on what the data suggests that they collect. But also, they should probably be doing a player enjoyment survey on that if they really want to find the data. Still, I highly doubt that that'll happen. Now, I do want to briefly ask two things quickly in this category, since we are running out of time. So, changes to overhealth. Now, this is something that I think is very good, and it helps make a lot of heroes much better, and it helps make Briggs Rally less OP. So universally, all overhealth is now the green overhealth that was not seen in Overwatch 1 unless you played a lot of custom games. Do any of you have hot takes about that? I think that it's a good change.
Yeah, I like it.
I think it's a good change. It just it has affected some heroes in a weird way. where I'll give you an example. Like when Sigma uses his kinetic grasp and gets some overhealth with it, he becomes far less desirable to shoot because no overhealth grants ult charge.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the point?
Similar with Brig, when she ults, you're just gonna have a net neutral, like 0 ult charge gained for the entire duration of that ultimate if you can't manage to kill anyone.
Right.
It's very effective, and it has kind of kept the power level of Rally the same. Just almost kind of the opposite of what they wanted, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, it certainly had some interesting implications in that regard. For me personally, like, I thought I was going to hate this just generalized change to overhealth because of just it eliminates mechanics of like, oh, bonus shields, bonus armor, and like all the little cool details that come with having these various types of health. I thought I was going to hate that they removed that, but actually I really like it just because it simplifies things. Mm-hmm. There's no weird like, oh, does this grant ult charge? Does this not? Like, oh, what's armor versus shields? It's just pure health. And like, it looks nice. It's green. You can tell when it's there. It's nice. It's like one thing that I think I've been genuinely like caught off guard by how much I like it. And I'm like, good job, Blizzard. I think you did a good job with this one. But yeah, like the ult charge variant of it, maybe there's something to consider there as well, because that definitely has some big effects for various heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
I think snowballing.
Yeah, I think now especially like with how like going back to the universal gameplay mechanics, like armor is crazy now.
Yeah.
Like it's literally Bastion's really ironclad.
Oh yeah.
Like
for as long as your character has
ironclad.
Armor, you basically have ironclad active.
Yeah, like the old ironclad, not the one he had. You know,
which is very good. I think that's a very good direction to take, especially considering that the vast majority of the heroes that have armor are tanks or Torbjorn or Brig, and in those cases it's 50, so it's not really relevant unless you're really nitpicking. But that's a very good change, I think, because tanks need to feel tanky, and if they have a mechanic almost exclusive to them, or a mechanic that represents that tankiness, right? A mechanic that represents armor, it should probably do a good job of representing that. Now, one more thing in this category. This is a very large category, 0.5, of course. Role passives. My hot take here is that they're all pretty okay.
Yeah, they're fine.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a bit underwhelming, and sometimes just not even useful at all, depending on the character. And other times it is actually game-breakingly good on the character.
Right.
It's
like
hero
to Moira, Lucio, and a little bit of Ana specifically. Actually, Brig. No, Brig is a lot better.
Brig benefits a lot from that 25 HPS, but there's a lot of stipulations on that.
If she can shield for less than a second, she's just back to full health.
Inspire and the passive. Incredible. Okay, moving on to point 6. This probably won't take very much time because we all know where this is going. We've already discussed it. The support category.
Oh boy.
Make support fun again.
Yeah, make support fun again. Yeah, really. What is fun about playing support?
A lot of the like non-changes they got, and I like the fact that they're like, okay, well, they're just they have to duel now, but they don't feel great. Especially characters like Baptiste, who's kind of lost their niche. Mm-hmm. You can't really heal everyone anymore like you used to. People are much more spread out in Overwatch 2. Moira, however, has seen a bit of a strange resurgence. Even though she can't heal everyone as effectively, she can still go into the enemy's backline just as effectively.
She can dive with her damage ball. She can fade out and then start healing. She has a lot of versatility. It's really interesting. I like Moira a lot. I play her
healing overall has become a bit less powerful, but also more powerful when focused on a single character.
Mm-hmm.
A character like Widowmaker definitely benefits from being pocket healed by 2 characters and is much more noticeably unkillable while having that.
I suppose a good thing to do for her is to increase her base health from 175 to 200, just as a
that'd be crazy, right? Yeah. They wouldn't do that.
No, definitely not. Do you have anything to say about BAP, Ian?
I've barely played him on the beta thus far,
right.
So I just haven't had much experience with him. Certainly, I think the points like Nessie made definitely seem to apply just from me seeing other people play him, or more accurately, the lack of people playing him.
Yeah, that is very telling.
Honestly, we
Amazing.
could probably do an entire episode just talking about support heroes.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's something to consider for later. But yeah, supports I think are weak right now. There are a few that stand out, Lucio and Ana. It's like those two every match. The others, they just feel underwhelming. And like I know some people just like the healing aspect, and they like playing Mercy because they like healing people, and that's cool. But for me, it's like so much of their utility, so much of the nuance of what made different support heroes interesting has just been stripped out by the changes in Overwatch 2, that it's like I don't enjoy that role in the beta currently at all.
Well, I respect that. I totally respect that. Not everybody can be a masochist, so
Yeah, no, I've been playing BAP only when I've been like, yeah, I do want to lose this one actually.
I do want to suffer and die. Actually, that sounds like fun.
No, I do agree. It's an entirely different direction that has just not been accounted for at that much. Because they seem to really want the support to function without their healing capabilities being much of what you pick them for. They want to much more focus on utility, but in turn, they have also removed utility for some of the characters.
Right, which is just like, it completely defeats the purpose. It's like, if you want to have a little bit of splash healing, you play Soldier. It's like that's what you do. And I'm sure eventually we're going to have more characters outside of the support role that can offer actual useful healing to the team of significant amounts, like 35 HPS for 5 seconds, or something of that nature. And
There's
so
a
I think
lot of interesting things you can do in the support role, and some characters just don't do that, or don't do anything interesting, or don't have anything that makes them different from other characters. A good example being Moira and BAP for this thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really
Moira
have a
has big
different
numbers, though.
Yeah, exactly. So big that the immortality feels useless in comparison.
Yeah. Yeah. That's something I'd never expected you to say. Right. The tragedy of the support category is evident to all of us, but I think another thing that is blatantly obvious is how cool some of the reworks are, and also how strange the direction of some of the choices are. So point 7 is the hero reworks, specifically Orisa, and the non-hero rework of Ball, which was just a reversion on adaptive shields, if I recall correctly. Man,
I like Ball, but I haven't played him much in this game, and that's probably because he kind of strangely sucks. People thought he was going to be the best character in the game, like the only playable tank, but it's been quite the opposite, really.
Well, again, I think
Yeah, that's interesting you say that, because like I've been playing a lot of Wrecking Ball in the beta, and I feel like I'm doing gangbusters with him. Like, the absence of crowd control, like Sombra isn't a threat to him, Brig isn't a threat to him, Mei isn't a threat to him. He can just run rampant. He can do anything. He never dies now. And like, the comparison I see a lot of people making is him to Doomfist. Oh, Doomfist is the new Wrecking Ball, which is better. Honestly, like, granted, I have tons of Wrecking Ball experience relative to Doomfist, but like, Wrecking Ball, I think, is very capable in the beta right now. Like, I think he's a bit of a sleeper pick, to be honest. If you know how to play Ball, I think you can get a ton of value out of him. That's going to be my 2 cents as the Wrecking Ball main. Thank you for listening.
this has been Ian's
That's
TED
really
Talk.
interesting that you say that. That's really interesting that you say that, because I would have assumed that he's a tank that really benefits off of teams being close together. And Overwatch 2 seems to be a game where people are very far away from each other, where you're more dispersed. So,
Yeah,
I would
but he
assume
can
that wouldn't be the case.
he can be so disruptive on the point. Like, just spin around that payload, just constantly hit and run over and over and over again until you just wear them thin. They're all so busy trying to take down this fat rolling hamster that the rest of your team, just shoot them while they're shooting the big ball. Like, it just works. Like, I don't play at the highest skill tiers. I'm like a diamond when I'm playing tank, so it could vary greatly at different skill levels. But in my experience, he has been very, very strong.
I don't think he's particularly weak, but he's been strangely absent from a lot of my games, is what I've noticed.
Yeah, I don't see many people playing him. I will admit that.
Similar to
but
Zarya,
when I play
actually.
him, I feel like I get a lot of value. Yeah.
It's similar to Zarya, where the character is clearly quite good in reality, but not many people are playing them. Maybe that's
I don't
just
see a
because
lot of people playing Roadhog.
Maybe, just maybe, that's because a lot of the reworks they did are so fucking good, especially Orisa.
Yeah, or at the very least, fun. Like, even if
Yeah.
someone doesn't
Oh, yeah.
know how to get used out of Doomfist, playing tank Doomfist is fun. So,
Okay, well, we
I
can.
do
I'd
agree.
contest that, but
Okay.
As
Okay.
the
Yes. Okay.
former Doom
Astro.
player.
Right. Since this is your channel, you can now complain about Doomfist for 1 minute 30 seconds and go.
okay. Well, let me just. I
my
have my notes here. I'm just pulling it
Here
up.
we fucking go.
Listen here, you
Well,
little
it's
shit.
it's not quite like that. Okay, so where's my fucking notes on this? There it is. So I would, yeah. So I honestly really like the idea of Doomfist as a tank. I kind of warmed up to it over time, and I do find it like decently fun. But I think the bigger issue for me is just that it's only kind of superficially Doomfist at this point. I wouldn't say it feels much like Doomfist. Again, I feel like it's decently fun, but I feel like to anyone who's a veteran on Doomfist, at least to a lot of people who are veterans on Doomfist, I've just kind of found that they're a little. They find it like the rework not terribly not executed terribly well. And I think part of that is, again, I think they, as Ian said, people are comparing him to Ball a lot, and I think that's actually pretty accurate. I would say that, like, leave the throwing yourself at the enemy to boop and disrupt multiple people to Ball, because that's, like, Doomfist has just never been about that, and I don't think just becoming a tank should really change that. And like Doomfist should just be doing Doomfist things, and what Doomfist has always done is Doomfist things is locking down either small groups or a singular target. And as we can see with some of the other tanks, that's actually not necessarily bad. And if they really want him to be Doomfist, he needs to be more of a hog ball hybrid and not just sort of Ball but different. And I think a perfect example of this is, like, I feel like the multi-punch is kind of ridiculous. I feel like that's directly something that contests Ball a little too much. And I think Doomfist being Doomfist, especially since he has less health, obviously I don't think it should be doing the old 250, but I think it should be doing 120, 130. I also don't really like the fusing with the uppercut and the slam. I initially thought I'd really like that because it simplifies things, like a lot of the things that a rollout Doomfist would want to do. But what I had never accounted for is that Doomfist's identity was always as a combo hero, and this, like, the leap slam, just, it literally, like, probably, like, it takes, like, the creativity potential of, like, putting the moves together. It just eliminates it, basically. And so it's not as engaging. And it's like, being creative with it doesn't feel as good.
It's much harder to do.
Yeah, and I think, if nothing else, I think that's the biggest loss with this Doomfist rework, is that rollouts don't feel as good, and combos don't feel as good, and at that point, what are you left with? You're left with the punch. And
the primary fire, which is pretty damn good. It shreds. It recharges so quickly now.
And I would say that instead of, like, and Doomfist has always had an open reload key, so I'd say they should probably just put the block on that. Like, I don't see a reason why they had to fuse the slam and uppercut, because it basically just, like, ruins this central thing about Doomfist. And I think it needs to charge more gradually, because right now it only has 2 stages. I think it should be more like a Zarya bubble. And at the full charge, I'm gonna be honest with you, I think it should just be old punch. Like, if you are putting that much damage into Doomfist while he's blocking, you deserve to get clapped vintage style. Like,
Believe me, it happens a lot on accident, just from, like, 3 guys on the enemy team accidentally shooting like 35 damage into him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or like one sim ball, like the sim shoots a ball, and you're like, combat the key.
I'll have that one.
Exactly. So, again, to summarize, I think they're onto something interesting with the rework, but it's just not Doomfist. Like, I don't think many Doomfist mains would contest that claim. So, yeah.
Well,
Different character, but still very fun.
Oh, fun.
Correct.
Fun, yes. I think he's definitely decently fun, but it's not the fun that you would get from playing Doomfist.
So I guess what will happen
Doomfist Overwatch 1 fun, but it's
correct.
different.
Yeah. It's different, but it's still the same. I guess it's still the same character. It's still the same personality, but I guess it's just not the same kid, and that's probably something that you find very distressing. But I can assure you that down the line, I'm sure there's going to be many heroes added to the roster that you will be able to say, yes, this shall replace the spot that both Doomfist and Bastion held in my heart because of their untimely demises to their reworks. In your words, of course, because I quite like how Doomfist looks, and I think I'm going to move my love for Sigma to Doomfist, despite Sigma having Big Rock back.
Yes.
I should mention that the funny animation cancel. Have you seen this, Sec?
No,
have you seen it, Ian?
I don't think I've seen it because I saw you guys talking about it earlier, but I don't think I've actually seen it before.
Sigma got not touched a lot, but he got one thing that definitely really helps him. He got his health increased. That's fucking negligible. The 100 damage rock actually obliterates people, especially with a little animation cancel that Astro found.
Yeah, so basically,
I suppose you have to play it in the video now, so you're gonna have to edit it in at this point.
Something that is someone who has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours on Sigma, something that I instinctually knew to do is that the moment that you could start firing again after you use accretion is as soon as the rock fires, or maybe a quarter of a second after the rock fires. And so what I would do is I would fire the accretion, or I would cast it, and I would have the primary fire button held, and I would track the enemy to where the rock would hit them, and then basically shortly after the rock would hit, the orbs would hit and it would kill them. They've done something a little funny here. In that you can now you can animation cancel the primary fire with the rock, because if you hold down the fire button while casting accretion, you will actually fire before the rock flies away.
Oh my.
So
you fire as soon as you're not locked into the animation anymore, but before the rock actually, shoots.
So what this means is that pretty much regardless of range, the rock and the first orb of the primary fire will always hit at the exact same time. And so
that's quite good.
And so
Tracer.
And so what that means is that basically as far as you are concerned as the player, as soon as you cast accretion and hold down the fire button, whoever you are looking at is already dead. Because that's it's literally 225 damage in probably maybe, I'm not good with tick rates, but it's probably an eighth of a second. That's 225 damage. That's just blasting.
Just gone.
Yeah. It's very fun.
At least you're enjoying Sigma, so that's good to hear that you're having some positive experiences. And I suppose only time will tell what will change in the next coming beta. Though, admittedly, I will not be able to enjoy it at least until the 3rd. So when that does happen, it will be my absolute pleasure to report on my emotions as to the state of the game. But until then, I guess I'm just going to have to remain respectfully opinionated on the subject and not actually properly informed.
Anyways, from there we should talk about. I think we should go to Bastion, Orisa, and Sombra.
Yes, very good. And that will be what will end our show, the brief discussion of those three. So first, Sombra, because it's the easiest to talk about. It seems annoying. Is it?
As
So
as the
it is
tank,
clear
it's
that they
fine.
had some goals specifically in what they wanted to get somewhere. They wanted to keep the infinite stealth, but in doing so, they noticed that the player base of Overwatch 1 just kind of stayed there passively, never actually getting out of invis. So they wanted to make it a bit more proactive in invis, making it able to hack while in invis. But of course, hack was a bit too strong, so they had to change the hack, and now they ended up having a weird interrupt on a 4-second cooldown that blows up whoever they look at.
Yeah, pretty much. And I think people, I don't know, I haven't really talked about this with people, but I think that the ping system is just like an inherent buff to Sombra. Like, because her issue in ranked and like not pro play was always that you had to coordinate for her to be really effective. And just like having the ping system to tell people like when enemies are hacked or like when they've been hacked for like
Or right
to have the
before they're
interrupt.
engaged.
Yeah, is basically just like saying like it basically makes up for the fact that she's always had an issue with that. I will say that the combination of Zen and Sombra it's pretty funny, I guess is the word I would
It's
use.
fucking killer.
It's ridiculous. So like you could have like the enemy Roadhog, he could like have Discord and get hacked, and he's taking 70% more damage from Sombra. Like, and Sombra does more damage in the first place now. So like, Roadhog's just sort of Roadhog is just sort of dead. Like it's.
Bye. Back to spawn.
It's basically an anti-tank combo. It's pretty interesting.
That's pretty disgusting. I mean,
Yeah,
it really
the
doesn't look
Sombra-
like it.
The Sombra Zen overlap of having the Discord and the hack is pretty disgusting. I'll admit that.
Sombra Zen Mercy has got to be one of the ugliest fucking things you can play against. It is actually no fun at all.
And also,
To
like,
think that
because
only
ults-
takes up one of their DPS slots is even worse.
You just have Widow.
Yeah, slap a soldier in there or a widow, and
Yeah.
no
fun
Widowmaker.
Boy, no fun to
Anti-fun
be
comp.
had.
Anti-fun. No fun. You just die, and then you get to be miserable. I really never understood the design philosophy behind. And now, a 1 second interrupt. It doesn't matter how long the hack is. You just like half of the ults in the game can just be ended by that. It's like pig, okay, gone. It's like Reinhardt casting Earth Shatter, gone. It's like
I think the idea now is that it is an interrupt, but that's it.
Yeah.
Like they don't stay interrupted afterwards, which is what what it did afterwards. Like Soldier, it's like, oh no, they turned off my legs.
No, I I've been watching some Fitzy, and like Sombra's just nuts.
Actually, gross.
So yeah.
horrendous.
Anyways, next hero, Orisa.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Dude, Orisa's crazy fun.
The alt looks so cool.
Yeah.
It looks so well designed and so well balanced.
Yes.
I still don't like the ultimate.
Oh, really?
It feels underwhelming.
Yeah, it's underwhelming.
It's like you use it and everybody just walks away. It's like, okay, bye.
That's very.
I'm just gonna stand here twirling my stick. You
We're
get
gonna,
shot
we're
at
gonna
by
have
the
to
widow.
get used to it. I mean, we've had some similar ults.
Shot
that
at by
felt
the
like
widow.
What's another ult that originally felt like that? I feel like EMP was one of the ultimates that felt like that on launch. It's just like, oh, they just kind of walk away when they get EMP'd.
Blizzard, old Blizzard, when it was really small, maybe just toss the Blizzard, everybody would just walk away from it.
Yep.
Right.
Gravitic Flux, before they undid a bit of the nerf, when the cast time was super long and people would just literally, like, you could 100% of the time, unless you were dead center, could walk out of it. It's like, yeah.
Well, actually, no, Meteor Strike was not one of
Meteor
those.
Strike was always that. Never changed.
Yeah. Yeah, some ultimates were like a bit underwhelming on launch, but then people realize just what it's good for and when they should use it, it becomes super strong. Right. And in my games, at least, it seems some Orisas have figured it out. And I myself, in playing, I feel like I can get some consistent value with it. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's a good finisher. If you're like fighting like in the middle of the enemy team and they're all like at half health already, yeah, just twirl that thing up and just take them out.
When the team
So I
fights
guess maybe
unsure,
it's a situational type use, but like I feel like the feeling of using it, I think, is lacking.
Right.
And just even if you're not going to get kills, it would feel nice if you could just at least hold people there, like a self grab sort of thing. But it doesn't even using your ultimate in a sort of like vacuum type ult like that, and watching every single enemy just leave is so just it feels awful.
well, that's what
Right.
Grab did originally when
Yeah.
people would just
Yeah.
like charge out of it or blink out of it or
Like I think
uppercut out of it.
Caroline is still a good ult. I think it fits her in the kit, and I think overall the Orisa kit is phenomenal, if not a little overtuned. But I think the ultimate is like the one aspect where it's like, I kind of wish it was better.
Yeah, and
her base kit is insanely fun to play, flows together really well,
oh yeah,
and I feel like the E actually flows well into the ultimate as well.
oh it does absolutely.
Oh, certainly.
I honestly will acknowledge though. I know a lot of Orisa mains have been like, "What the fuck?" They're sort of having what I'm experiencing with Doomfist, but worse, because like it is literally just not the same hero, and I'm a little conflicted on that because on one hand, I like what they did with Orisa, but on the other, and I know that Ian just released a video on this. I think it probably should have been just a different hero they put that on. Because this is the first time that like a hero has literally just been removed from the game. Like
You seem to be forgetting my main. Yeah.
well, okay,
yes,
but-
yes. Metro's been removed from the game 3 times,
But-
so you can stop with that.
okay, but Sim is like there's a
With Sim, they at least kept her secondary fire similar.
they kept the secondary fire, they kept the turrets, that's that sort of thing. They
Neither of those function at all
well, I
the same
know,
way.
but they
No, but-
they kept the abilities at least in some.
Yes, she still has Fortify, and she uses Fortify a lot more.
Well, yes, I know, but
So, yeah, they kept an ability. Like,
but it is. I think it is a little much. I do think they should have put it on a new hero.
it is jarring. It is definitely jarring.
I
but,
also-
like,
I-
I think that's the point.
I also don't like the removal of the barrier. I'll be honest.
Oh,
about
you and your
that.
barriers, yes.
Well, no,
I think it's great actually.
well, because think about it, right? It's like no one ever complained about solo barrier except Doctor Disrespect, and
Well, people complained about Orisa barrier from the start, though. Let's be real.
well, but that was because it was always up, right? And I feel like with how this game is playing now, I feel like barriers might be important, an important thing to have, because otherwise I think this game might just kind of get out of hand. But besides that, I do like the blender, the javelin spin. That's very fun to use. The primary fire is good. I like the heat mechanic, and the javelin is sick. Like, it's better Doomfist
Yeah, it's
Punch.
cool.
It's better Doomfist Punch, and
It is.
It
It's
feels
so cool.
it feels like it.
It is better than the current Doomfist Punch, and it has It has range.
Yeah, and, like Ness has seen like how you can just snipe people with it. It's very.
Did it
funny.
headshot?
No,
No,
it can't. Luckily,
Okay, good.
it can't.
but
Oh, that's one saving grace.
it does, I believe, 75.
It does 80 damage base and another 40 if you pin them into a wall with it.
So 120. Yeah.
Yeah, 120 max damage.
That's pretty chonky.
So
a nice
it's
damage boost to
it's-
kill Tracer.
It's literally exactly what I think Doomfist Punch should be, but with range.
Yeah, Doom
Nice.
Punch should probably have similar stats to those.
Yeah, but
At least at the maximum punch charge.
Indeed.
Like the charge up time, not
so-
the supercharge.
So yeah, that's Orisa. You guys have anything more to say about Orisa?
Fun. I like it.
Fun,
Cool. Impeccable redesign, actually.
fashionable,
And
exquisite.
they like knew they very much knew that it didn't fit how even her like canonical character would respond to it. So they changed that. But it's like, yeah, you had an unformed mind before, and now this is how you are.
Right, I like that. Yeah.
And now you're a warrioress. That's pretty cool. That's a cool thing. So I suppose
rather
now.
convenient. You know,
Yes.
just like the character who's like a childish new creature in the world gets the huge rework that lets them develop her character. Like, if a Soldier that got a rework like that, how would they develop his character? Just saying, it's rather coincidental. It's kind of weird.
I wonder if someone's default skin in Overwatch 2 will have their blue face become red to match the fact that they have become evil and a member of the antagonists. So,
What? What are you talking about?
nothing at all. So, brief notes on Bastion. We know that you're going to make a video about it in the future, Astro, so keep it to 30 seconds. Go.
Okay, so as I've said, it's not the direction I was hoping for that they'd take him, but it's not necessarily a bad one. The biggest thing holding him back from at least being alright is the removal of the self-heal. They wanted to make him more independent, which is good, but you can't have a hero the size of Zarya with only 300 HP walking around without some sort of self-sufficiency. I've played him for like a good 5-6 hours, and like you just can't do anything that isn't like cowering near your tanks or supports, because if you take any sort of independent action, you either just die or get out having done precious little with like 10 HP left, and then you just kind of got to do the walk of shame back to a health pack or your supports without really getting hit by some random shot from like the enemy cast or something. It's not, as I said, not the direction I wanted. It's not a bad direction. It's decently fun, but I don't think it's going to be terribly viable without the self-heal.
Right. Any takes, Ian?
I mean, I kind of disagree in that, like, talking about like the walk of shame back to your supports, that can kind of be said for like any hero that doesn't heal itself. So like, I don't really see that aspect of Bastion. Overall, I think the new Bastion rework is really fun. I think it honestly makes him more independent than he was originally.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you're just stationary,
That's
then
good.
Yeah, you're even worse off. But I really enjoy it. I think it works well. It does feel a bit like clunky Soldier in terms of like,
Oh,
yeah, he's still got that like auto fire type of thing, and it's like, does he really fill a super special niche now? He's kind of become more generalized, which I don't particularly like, but I think he's become more fun, more viable in more situations, and more approachable for the average player in terms of playing him and not just being worthless on a team.
Right.
So I think it's good. Overall, I'm in favor of the rework. I think it's a good direction to take him.
Well,
I do think it's a bit odd how the character with 300 health, 100 of which is armor, is probably the least survivable DPS character in the game.
And that's what I was just
Right.
that's what I was about to say to Ian. You say like that it's that way with like all the other DPS. It's not though, because Bastion is the size of Zarya and has 300 health. And
Isn't he bigger than Zarya?
Yes.
Actually,
He's
yeah,
definitely
I think,
bigger.
I think he might be, yeah. And so it's not really the same, because just because of your size, you just inherently absorb more damage. And so you need like some sort of self-sufficiency if you're going to be out for like more than a few seconds.
Yes,
suppose that is
I don't think he really needs to be out more, because like Soldier can run off and heal himself and get high grounds and flank. Like Tracer and Reaper can flank effectively. Like Bastion, why would you be flanking with Bastion? You don't. You sort of hang with the team and are this sort of like heavy damage with your tanks and the supports and everyone.
TF2
So like,
What's funny?
yeah, you don't have to be this sort of independent person who can just go out and do your things. You sort of run with the team without necessarily being like, oh, I need this Reinhardt giving me his barrier or I am worthless. So that's why I think that's a big difference in that regard.
Well, it's funny you say that, because like good Bastions would play flank Bastion. Like that was the way to play Bastion.
Oh yeah,
Historically,
definitely.
definitely.
So,
yeah, but like I feel like now he's in a better position because flank Bastion he's not supposed to be a flank Bastion. That's definitely not what the devs designed him to be.
No.
So it feels like now he's more in line with like a intended idea for how he functions and plays, as opposed to, oh, let's find a weird gimmicky way to make this bizarre character work, and it's not what he was supposed to do at all, but it works sometimes.
They clearly at least had a direction with what they wanted.
Yes.
They wanted him to stick close to the team, like Overwatch 1 Bastion, but still be a bit more self-sufficient in a way, not immediately killing himself upon using his main ability on the flank kind of way.
And the ult is fun. I like the ult. I'm still.
I love it.
I'm
so
still
much.
not.
It looks very cool.
I'm still not a fan of the thing being like the transformation being on a cooldown, but I guess I can get used to that. But yeah, that's sort of my thoughts. I like the grenade. You can rocket jump with it. It's fun.
It's cute.
One thing to note about the
I
ultimate,
like
though,
the
and,
range, single fire, stuff like that.
I showed Astro this, and I don't know if many people know about this, but the ultimate can headshot.
Yeah, I can.
It's a
that has to be a Call
600
of Duty
damage
reference.
projectile that goes into an AoE and explodes. But if it hits a character in the head before that, it does 1200 damage instead.
Yep, it's funny.
That's hilarious, but that has to be a Call of Duty reference. There's no way that it isn't, because historically, Predator drones in Call of Duty in the Modern Warfare series have had the ability to headshot, and you could one-shot juggernauts with them, and that was like a big thing that you could do in this PvE element. So that has to be referenced. There's no way that isn't. That's such a titanic amount of damage, 1200. Like,
or
oh
it's
my
just
god.
a mistake, but
Oh no, they have to keep that. That's too funny. Random. Well, you can't tell though if it's a headshot because the UI is shit.
oh
but
god,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
changed
but the
that.
new headshot icon is just
Horrific.
invisible.
Horrific.
You cannot see it on video footage. You can see it yourself
If you look really
like you're
closely.
playing, but
They need to make the whole hour red. There's no reason for it to be so easy to be missed. That's completely pointless. The point of it is to be clear. Oh, anyway, that's a whole other subject for a whole other time, for a whole other day. Whatever, for a whole other episode. So I suppose, Astro, you'll be releasing in the coming weeks a video talking about your thoughts on these reworks more in depth, where you can more easily vocalize how you feel and have time to write a lengthy script, like good YouTubers do. Isn't that right?
I mean, probably.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly not sure if I'm gonna do like an independent video on it, but I might. So it depends
I
on.
suppose we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Very good.
anyways,
Yes. Anyway, singular, as I should remind you. Link for the Discord in the description, as for Master Ian Gamer's channel. And
it's probably also in the description. Let's be real.
yes, please join the Discord. Hang out with us, and let's see how you feel about certain things. To give us your Overwatch hot takes. We'll be listening. Thanks for joining us, Ian. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to be here. Happy to chat with y'all.
Yes. Well,
I think that is the end of the episode,
I
right?
think that's it.
Indeed. That's a wrap.
So anyways,
next
time. Bye, everybody.
yeah, thanks for being here.
Ciao.
Ciao. See you
And
later.
that is where we end the recording button.